Coming to you live after a very long break of podcasting. It is the Believe in the Southside Boys. I am Steve-O. You can find me on Twitter at Drunk Shy Sox Fan. And joining me, my co-host.
What's up, everybody? It's your Carrie. Find me on Twitter at that basement. And Steven, I am glad we're back on the mic, back to talking. About some, especially because we got some going on and some news. So I'm ready to get it.
Absolutely. I'm catching double of you in the mic. I don't know if that's my shitty internet connection or if that's you, but I'm sure we'll get it figured out by the time the show ends. So it's good to have people back watching us live. Of course, Carrie, it's late.
Adam can't even type.
Late. Yeah, I know. He's probably, a couple or 2, 3 of these in already. So I'm going to be drinking a little bit on today's episode, Carrie, because I just have to pose this question.
Mm-hmm.
Do we root for the worst franchise? First, I'm going to start with, do we root for the worst franchise and have a podcast for the worst franchise in the city of Chicago?
I wouldn't even say the city of Chicago. I'd almost say in all of sports. They are
all of sports.
They are a top 5, probably like they're in the top 5 for worst run organizations in sports, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's just horrific. I mean, the fact that, I mean, where do we begin, right? I mean, this team goes, let's start with 1917 to 2005. They go 88 years without winning a championship.
Yep.
Then
And like the stories my father would tell me about the Sox in like the 60s and 70s and 80s and how just embarrassing they are, and how embarrassing they were. Like, I don't know how he even stuck around. I wouldn't.
Right. And I mean, like, I put out a tweet the other day that was like, I ran through all the Chicago sports teams and why they're shitty right now. At least the ones that I'm a fan of. And there were a couple people who were like, well, the Sox aren't that bad. And I get it. The Sox aren't that bad. They were 81-81 last year. They had their first back-to-back postseason appearances ever in their franchise history, which is ridiculous, by the way. First ever back-to-back postseason appearances.
That means you're not good at anything you do.
Yeah, this is like when you have to think the White Sox are an old organization. This is like when there were 18 teams in Major League Baseball, and they still couldn't get back-to-back postseason appearances. I mean, the postseason was the World Series.
They were one of the original, what was it, 6 or 8 teams or something like that? And they think about that. Like, they were one of the original teams, still couldn't get back-to-back playoffs.
1,000%. So you take all of that into consideration, and then obviously the whole idea of, okay, over the last 3 years, the White Sox are still a winning baseball team. The problem is, they should be more than just a winning baseball team. They should be a team that's contending for a title.
Because that's what they sold us
on. Or a team that was, yes, that's what they sold us on, right? This was our window of contention, as they said, right? And what do we have to show for it? One playoff victory, one Leury Garcia bomb to center field, the most expensive home run in White Sox history. So the big argument that, worst in the city, I don't think that's even a debate right now. Are they the worst in Major League Baseball?
I mean, I think so. I know you got, some of the comments here, like the Rockies, the Texans, Pirates, Pirates, they were dominant in like the 70s. At least they had a dominant stretch of baseball. So I probably wouldn't put them, but like, Texans are a pretty shitty organization.
Now we're reaching like football. We're talking all of sports.
Oh, I'm talking all of sports. Like,
okay.
I'm already there with baseball. The Rockies are better. They've been to a World Series more recently than we have. I think they've been to the playoffs, multiple years when the Sox haven't been. I mean, they spend money on players, right? I mean, they gave Chris Bryant like a $200 million contract, which they shouldn't have, or 150, but like they spend money on players. The Sox don't spend money. They don't win. They don't have a good front office. They don't change their front office. Their owner is fucking horrible. Their GM's fucking horrible. They have issues with their GM with, getting sued for being a shitty human being potentially, right? And, this Clevinger stuff, like, it's just all boils down to just being a terrible franchise
Well,
in
I think it's
all sports.
ridiculous when you're up there with the Chili's and New Lenox for ability to vet employees. I mean, it's that bad for the Chicago White Sox. And first off, the Tony, let's reach back to the Tony La Russa hiring, right? Think about
Ugh,
the poor vetting that happened with Tony La Russa. And that one's even worse because the reports were already out there. The police reports were already out there when they hired La Russa. And then on top of that, I mean, obviously, there were things that were in the dark about Clevinger that they didn't know about.
yeah,
However, you have a guy that was already had character issues to begin with.
yeah,
Right.
exactly. Since 2019, it's never been a secret. So it's like, don't be surprised when shittier things do happen, right? So they took that risk, and now they're stuck with that $12 million risk. So
Absolutely. And if you do see something, say something. That's really important. Okay. And I know that's also kind of
it's
yeah.
terrible.
I mean, it's just ridiculous that the White Sox with Mike Clevinger right now. There's a simple, very Rick Hahn speak lawyer cut PR stance out there from the organization, and that's it, right?
Of
If you're
course.
the White Sox, at least from a PR standpoint, at least from an organizational standpoint, I'm not even talking about from a baseball standpoint, as a business carry, what do you do about the Mike Clevenger situation? I want to hear what you think first.
I mean, if they were a Los Angeles Dodgers, if they were a New York Yankees, right? If they're one of these teams with high payroll, that Mets who don't give a fuck about payroll, you're releasing him, right? But they are the Chicago White Sox, right? They're not about to release $12 million and just let that $12 million go to this man for nothing, right? So two options are going to happen: either he gets guilty of what's been said in court or something like that, and the MLB does the investigation, and he gets suspended a full year potentially. But you saw how that played out with Bauer, and they still had to pay him, right? They are going to pay this man his $12 million no matter what. So I think he'll get, less than obviously what Bauer got and stuff like that. He'll probably get, 40, 50 game suspension, and they're going to play him. He's going to play for the White Sox this year. So
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if he's going to play for the Chicago White Sox. I think if the White Sox were to have any brains in the front organization, which leads me to that, and I'm going to get there in a second too. If they have any sense amongst themselves, you put him on administrative leave at least,
you're
right?
still paying him. You're still paying him though.
I mean, you're paying him, sure. But at least, so when it comes to this, right? At least if you put him on administrative leave, then you're at least making a statement and saying, okay, while these allegations are out and while the air is being cleared, or while the truth is being found out, I should say, at least you're not playing him. At least you're not saying we're in this guy's corner. Because by playing him, you're ultimately saying, yeah, we're in this guy's corner. We believe in him as a person. That's
That,
the impression you give off.
but that's what's going to happen, man. I mean, they're going to just say we're going to let the MLB figure this out, and whatever, you're going to get that lawyer speak from Rick, and he's going to pitch. They're not going to just, if he's not suspended by the MLB, right? They're gonna play that man. They're gonna make him pitch. They don't have any other options, and it's the White Sox. When have they cared about morality? You talked about it with Tony La Russa, this old trainer that's getting fired and suing the White Sox,
Right.
specifically like suing Rick Hahn. Like morale. I mean, like just anything that's moral. In that front office, just throw it out the fucking window. They don't give a shit. So
I'm just I'm so pissed that I've renewed now. Like,
you're an
thanks. It was one thing when it was like, okay, they didn't go out and spend money on the big free agent, right? They didn't go out and get Aaron
idiot.
Judge, Brandon Nimmo, Benintendi, baby, the big what was the words that Scott Merkin used? The big fish, or he called
Yeah,
it something like that. Oh, they're behemoth. I think he said that, right? They're whale. No, he said whale. He
they're
actually said whale.
$75 million, and yeah,
He
whatever.
called it their whale. I mean, that's just absolutely insane. That $75 million contract is their whale. Um, It's one thing when you're not spending the money on superstar talent because the money has been spent elsewhere, or Jerry isn't happy with the product when it was over $200 million for a year. It's another thing when you're compromising your integrity as an organization. That's ultimately what it is, right?
Oh,
And
it's just
then this, right? Think about how bad the clubhouse culture was when Tony La Russa was manager for the most part,
that's
right?
but that's what I'm about to get to. They don't give a fuck. The front office does not give a fuck.
A year and a half out of the 2 years that Tony La Russa was manager, the clubhouse culture was absolute shite. Now you're bringing in a guy who has domestic violence allegations that are being investigated.
Yeah.
Say what you will, but it's insane to me. I mean, why am I rooting for this team? Why am I doing a podcast about this team?
It's just because it's hard to change your fandom. Like I would feel dirty if I changed my fandom, even though I hate this team. I think it's that you know glimmer of hope every White Sox fan's been hoping for and like dying for, for the past like 10 years, which is the day that Jerry sells the team or something else happens. Like I think that's honestly, I keep on telling my fiance, I'm like, a World Series would be nice, but better than that would be Jerry selling the fucking team. That's going to be my second World Series. That's going to be me celebrating just as hard for the World Series when Jerry sells this team. I think that's
No,
what it is. Like everybody's just like sick and tired of what this team is, who they are. They're never changing because you have an owner that doesn't care about, anything else besides, making money. This is the result you have, so just waiting on him to fucking sell.
no, it really is true.
Because I'm not gonna,
Rick Hahn's got to be on the true hot seat now, right? And I know we have our complaints, right? He's got to be on the true hot seat.
I don't think so.
If they don't make the playoffs this year, he's got to be
Dude, they didn't make the
top of the
playoffs.
list.
They didn't make the playoffs last year, and that was when they were supposed to be clear division winners and possible World Series contenders, and they went 81-81. And he didn't get fired. Sorry. I saw Gar Forman and John Paxson run the Bulls for about 17 years of my life. And like in the after D Rose was gone, you're like, this needs to change, and it didn't for another 8 years. So I don't see Jerry getting rid of Rick. Jerry loves the White Sox and he loves Rick and Kenny. So
Yep.
fucked.
Hashtag fire Hondorf from our guy Senor.
Yeah.
I love that. So if you're the White Sox, then from a baseball standpoint, you've still got to go out and get another starter, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think so. I saw that some Reddit thing today. I don't know if you saw that about Michael Pineda.
If that's true, just gag me. Did you see Michael Pineda's stats from last year?
Oh yeah, dog shit. You know what? It reminds me of just Irvin Santana. That move and who is that other fucking guy? I forgot who it was before Irvin Santana, but they just try those pitchers that had something.
Yeah,
It's a White Sox move.
it is. I mean, we're not even talking about a guy that even like sniffed like all-star. I mean, oh no, did he ever sniff all-star candidacy in his career?
I
I mean,
don't know.
he's never been that good. And then on top of that, he's absolutely washed ever
He's
since getting
yeah.
busted
We already
for.
got one fat boy. We don't need another, and that's coming from a fat boy. We're done. Enough. Enough.
I mean, this is. I mean, really, it is. I mean, I know they're too cheap, but this just it screams White Sox. It's a guy who was decent 5-6 years ago, and now he's just absolutely terrible after being caught for PEDs, or some sort of
Which
anabolic
makes
steroid,
no
right?
sense to me because I'm like, where did they go?
Right. And then on top of that too, you had his sticky stuff that he got
Yeah,
busted for.
it'd just be another White Sox signing. They don't care. But I love it because, Jerry Reinsdorf was the one that, refused to sign AJ Hinch or like Espada or whatever because the Astros cheated. So, he doesn't like that. But hey, domestic violence and getting shit-faced in your car and driving, that's okay. That's essentially what Jerry's telling you.
It's unbelievable. So just because I have to say this, right? I mean, you're looking for a guy. Mind you, I still think they need to put Clevinger. They should not let Clevinger pitch in a White Sox uniform. You are tarnishing your brand, your image as an organization. But I guess they don't care, right? Either way, say this Michael Pineda thing is true. I mean, it's not even like okay numbers. Like there are guys out there that are still available that had
Davis
okay
Martin.
numbers last year. Yeah, I mean Davis Martin was like, I mean, he wasn't great, but he was meh,
Rather like him. Yeah.
right? I mean, Joe Ross is still out there, right? He had an ERA of like 4.40 last year, but he actually pitched a ton of games, unlike Michael Pineda, who started 11 games. Now, mind you, started 11 games, Carey. So you're thinking, okay, he pitched like what? 70 innings?
Yeah.
No, 46.
That's horrible. That means he got knocked around.
46.2 innings, 26 strikeouts, and a whip of 1.41. ERA just under 6.
Oh, yeah.
That's the guy we want, right?
It's another Rick Hahn offseason where you wait too long, some shit happens, and then you're stuck, right? He never ever just does the right fucking thing. And I don't know if that's a combination of him being just so dumb and Jerry Reinsdorf being so cheap. I think it is a perfect combination of them both.
Right.
But like Lance Lynn got hurt, right? And then you're stuck with Johnny Cueto. Cueto was great. I mean, like they got very lucky, but like there aren't those options out there, So I don't know. They're just in another. They couldn't even sign Josh Harrison to a $2 million deal.
So glad you brought that up.
Like
The
what?
fact that they missed out on the Josh Harrison sweepstakes of $2 million.
You couldn't even sign
$2 million.
Cesar Hernandez. Is that the old Sox tech?
Yeah,
To a
Cesar
minor
Hernandez.
contract. He signed a minor league deal.
Well, they were more interested in Hanser Alberto,
It
apparently.
just shows, it just shows that they're okay with, what they got, which is just not good.
The lack of competency is what it comes down to. And maybe they know more than we do. Maybe Cesar Hernandez is going to be garbage. Maybe Josh Harrison is going to not be good.
So is Romy, and so is Sosa. Like,
right. I mean, what, Hanser Alberto is going to be better than both of them? Doubt it. Absolutely doubt it. It's just depressing. It honestly is. Like, I'm out of words at this
I think
point.
I've said it, and I know a bunch of people in our group have said it too, and some of the guys commenting. I think this is the least excited I've ever been as a Chicago White Sox fan, and that's even like when we went through a rebuild where we knew 2017, 18, and 19 were going to be just really bad years. We knew that those years were going to be bad, but there was that glimmer of hope. Okay, we got Tim Anderson, Yohan, we got some of these guys. They got money to spend on the Machados of the world, and everything just got flipped upside down once they couldn't sign the Machados and the Wheelers and stuff, and they just seemingly like they gave up. And Rick Hahn's like, I'm just going to rely on the guys we have now, and they don't have a good enough development system. So this is why we are in the way we are, and why myself, and I know you've talked about it, other people are just not excited for this year. We're not excited at all for 2023. And this is the years that they touted as the golden years of White Sox baseball because of, the rebuild. So
Absolutely.
embarrassing.
And I had like a small glimmer of hope. Like, I know Adam brings up right here in the comments, in hindsight, we were dumb for having hope. It's the same people running the organization. And I really thought, like, at least when the Pedro Grifol, announcement and hiring happened, and the change of coaching staff and change of the training staff and addition of different people in the analytics department, I was getting a little excited. I was like, okay, something might be a little bit different here, but it's not. It's just not. You've still got a gaping hole in second base. Your pitching staff is not deep enough. You've got the Mike Clevinger situation that's going on. Obviously, you can't control what happened to Liam Hendricks, which is extremely sad
Mhm.
and is a blow to the bullpen. And my best goes out to Liam and to his wife Christy and to their entire family. But then on top of that, we're having a discussion about Eloy Jimenez still starting in the outfield.
He's a dumbass if he thinks he should even play out there. I mean, like, that's the problem, like, you have, you know, you have a guy like Eloy who's going against the coaching staff already before the season. Like, there's no accountability from this front office. Like, the front office should be like, you are fucking the DH, and then you'll play maybe 20 games down the outfield, but shut up about it. Like, you're not an outfielder. So I don't know. I just
No. I mean, the fact that we're having a discussion about Eloy still playing in the outfield, even though you signed a left fielder, why are we trying to switch him back to right field where he
yeah,
hasn't even played since the Futures game
get
in
hurt again. Like,
2016, right?
yeah, exactly. Like, it's so maddening. Like, it's annoying.
Absolutely.
It's just another hope for the best, lightning in a bottle, White Sox year. That's all they do. They did in '05, and they think that 20 something years later that could happen still. And it's just not how things work anymore. There's a lot more data and everything else that goes along with it to make your teams good. The teams that don't spend a lot of money are good, like I don't know. I'm not excited at all for
No,
any part of this year.
for sure. And this team lacks an identity is the big thing, right? Like you bring up like smaller market teams that maybe don't spend that money, but at least they have the analytics department or the player development to back it up, right?
Yeah.
And then, I don't expect a Jerry Reinsdorf owned team to be at the top 3 or 4 in Major League Baseball in payroll. It's just not going to happen. My hopes are not there. But at least you've got to find some sort of identity in the middle, right? Okay, maybe we'll be in the middle of the pack when it comes to spending, but we're going to reallocate those resources to player development and analytics, right? Find some balance. Yeah, Cease is going to be fun to watch this year. I actually might put in a Cease future bet for a prop bet for him at Cy Young. I think he's going to be fucking fantastic. Do you think honestly, what are your thoughts on the bullpen this year that Adam brings up?
I honestly don't think the bullpen's an issue at all. I
I
mean,
don't either.
I know you lost Liam, but like you have a bunch of guys that can fill in at closer. I mean, Lopez looked like he could do it, and it might be good to see if he can, because then if he can, then Liam might be expendable when he comes back. I know that sounds horrible right now, but it's just true. But like you got Garrett Crochet. I mean, you have two solid lefties with Crochet and Bummer, and then even Jake, Diekman is not good. He's not horrible, but like to have him as your third lefty, they have a good bullpen. I think that's going to actually be a strong suit this year. I don't think even pitching is going to be an issue. Even like when that piece of shit Clevenger does pitch, I think he'll even be good. As bad as that is, it's going to be hitting again. Like, can they repeat it? You just lost your best hitter in Jose Abreu and your only leader. And I'm glad you brought up Eloy, because Eloy even was asked, who's going to be the voice of the team now? Who's going to lead? And he said, he's like, good question. I have no fucking clue. That sounds horrible, you know?
Yeah. And I don't worry about the bullpen either. I think think about the amount of resources that have been allocated into this bullpen. It should be decent, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you've got Raylo that's still in the pen. You've got Crochet who's supposed to be ready to rock and roll.
Joe Kelly, which
Joe
I
Kelly.
understand. He actually didn't have a bad year last year. His ERA was bad, but
Yeah. Well, he
underlying,
started the year completely awful and
yeah,
and then like outside of like a couple blips on the radar, he was really solid the second half of the year.
even Junior
Um,
Manfred's decent reliever.
yeah. And I love that our guy, Jesus H. Strawman here, brings up Kopech. I mean, Kopech's not going to be in the bullpen, but he's going to give you some really solid innings at the back end of your rotation. The rotation, I think, is really strong too. Fingers crossed if they stay healthy, right? And I still think they should get one other guy. Teams average more than 10 starters a year throughout the course of an entire season. I don't want to see Davis Martin start 15 plus games. If he starts 8, fine. He can't start any more than that. And
Yeah,
same with Jimmy Lambert. I mean, Jimmy Lambert shouldn't be starting
he
any
should
more
be a
than
bullpen.
3-4 games. Yeah, he
He
should
should
be
be a
coming out of the pen.
long reliever guy. You need 2 innings from 3 innings, and just talking about Kopech, right? And bouncing back. You have 3 guys that are bounce back candidates that have a lot to prove, right? Kopech probably, I think he's about to hit arbitration, so he wants to make more money, right? This is his first year after being a starter. He wants to prove that he can do it the whole year. Lance Lynn's big ass is, coming back from injury. He didn't have that good of a year. He's going to come back, I think, strong. And then Giolito wants to show that he can command a lot of money. He's going to want to have a good year and get the fuck out of Chicago. I know he wants to get the fuck out. So you have a potential to have a really good starting 4 guys, and that's why like this Clevinger shit is horrible because like if you have a talent like that that's not such a piece of shit, you have a great pitching staff.
Yeah, absolutely. 69 innings to 119 innings
Exactly.
last year for Kopech. Hoping you get him around 150, 175. That might be a little bit of a stretch for me. I'm gonna predict
I think
Kopech
it's
gets about 130, 135.
I think 150. I think they're gonna push him. I think he's gonna push himself too. He wants to be known as a starter. I can
Yeah,
see that.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I worry about an injury popping up
Oh
for
yeah,
him.
of course.
But that being said, if we get 150, 175 out of him, and it's the stuff that we saw, especially in the first couple months of the year, oh baby. I mean, the pitching will not be a concern. It's what kind of offensive production are we going to get out of an aging Yasmani Grandal, a big what if with Gavin Sheets, who's probably going to be an everyday starter at
A
this
what if
point.
it's Yoan Moncada? A what if we don't know who Oscar Colas is?
We don't even know who Luis Robert is yet.
Yeah, I mean,
We really don't.
think about all the players. We don't know who they are because Moncada's good every other year. Maybe this is the every other year. Is Grandal too old, right? Is Robert going to be healthy at all? Is Eloy going to be healthy? Is, Benintendi's actually a solid ball player. So good for them. They did the right fucking thing. But, like, is Oscar Colas even good? Is Andrew Vaughn better now that he's at first?
Right.
Who's our second baseman? Like, there's
Well,
so many what ifs. It's
Andrew Vaughn turned into a below average league hitter in 2020 mixing up my years here. 2021 below average to an above average league hitter in 2022.
yeah,
Does he make the next step to being an elite hitter in 23 is the question. And I think a lot of the White Sox offensive success hinges on that. It hinges on one of 3 guys becoming a superstar or having a superstar year. And one of those 3 guys has to be Moncada,
yeah.
Aloy, or Luis.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Those 3 guys have to be your catalyst. I mean, especially with Jose out, those are your 3 guys that have to play well for the majority of the year. I mean, Tim Anderson has to stay healthy too. That we can't let him off
Facts.
the hook. So
Facts. Absolutely. And here's the thing with Tim too. I don't expect him to play Gold Glove defense. I don't expect him to have an OPS above 900. I expect him to be an above average league hitter because of the average that he produces. And I expect him to not be dog shit at shortstop. If he can just not be dog shit at shortstop, that'd be fantastic.
yeah, no, I agree. I agree. But health for him, he's gotta stay healthy. For me, that's if he can do that, and if these guys can all play, a healthy-ish year and play 140 plus games together, they'll be a good solid squad. But it's never happened before. So why would it happen now?
It hasn't happened yet. It's a lot of what ifs. And on top of that, the reason why I just get so hung up on, okay, this is the White Sox window and maybe they'll be good. They should be great. They should
Yeah,
be contending for a title. And
it's
this
the spring.
team, unless everybody catches absolute fire and performs in their 95th percentile and above, especially when it comes to the hitting lineup, everybody's going to have to perform at that level if they're going to be a championship caliber team.
Yep.
Back to Vaughn too. I know giving up the points and batting average and turning those into, gappers, deep gappers and homers is great. He did have how many bombs last year? I want to say 19,
I think
17. Fact check me on that one. That being said, I think Vaughn needs to be even more than 20 home runs. I think he needs to be a 30 homer guy next year. The White Sox didn't have a single guy above 20.
17 last year.
17. Thank you. So I honestly think Andrew Vaughn can be a 28 plus home run
He
guy.
should be.
Yeah, he absolutely should be. That's the
Especially
kind
with
of talent he has at the plate.
he doesn't have to worry about playing the outfield anymore either, and getting hurt that way. He can just worry
Yeah.
about pitching the ball first and hitting bombs. That's it. That is
Yeah.
it.
Huge progress from year 1 in the league to year 2 in the league. I don't
Yeah.
see why he can't make that jump again, especially with how young he is and,
Yes.
a better coaching staff. Look at what Frank Menachino did to this fucking
Ugh.
lineup.
Yeah,
I'll never forgive him.
fuck that man. I mean, he went from a 91 OPS plus to a 111. So who's to say he can't go from 111 to 130? He could do it. And
Sure.
if there's one guy that can, I can see it. And I know, Prof here is right. 17 to 30, that is a big ask, but it could definitely happen, especially in a guy's third year. So we'll see.
You know what? Maybe 30 is a big number, but if somebody gave me an over-under home runs on Andrew Vaughn and said 25, 26, I'm mashing that over. So
Interesting.
that's my take. So, Carrie, we're at about a half an hour. I cannot believe we actually talked White Sox baseball for half an hour.
I know that's how much of losers we are. So,
well, it just pains me. I'm gonna finish this drink just thinking about how this White Sox season is gonna go. So
that brownie that my friend got me from Amsterdam, so I'll be gone.
oh, absolutely, you're gonna be in great shape.
Oh yeah.
Thank you to everybody who tuned in the live comments. They were fantastic as always. There were some on here that I could not put up on the board, of course. There was an FM Kane here, Carrie. Did you see that one? Did you want to play that?
Yeah, no comment.
No comment. You're going to take a pass on that one. He's pleading the fifth, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Have a great one, everybody. We'll see y'all next week. Peace.